Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out today. Let's just do a quick round of introductions so everyone can know who we are, and you guys can get to know each other a little better. Let's start from my left.
Hi, everyone. My name is Genesis Griffin. I'm a senior, class of 2023, and I attend Olympic High School.
Hi, I'm Varian Youth. I'm also a senior with the class of 2023 at Olympic High School.
Hey guys, I'm Wama Matadi. I'm also a senior at Olympic High School 2023, and I also do CPCC, dual enrollment.
Hey everyone, my name is Jessica Asamoah Boadu. I feel like I'm the only junior on here. I'm a junior, class of 2024, and I go to Olympic High School as well.
Hi, I'm Sydney Griffin. I am a senior at South Mecklenburg High School, class of 2023, and I also do dual enrollment.
Hey, I'm Juan, and I'm not I'm a senior. I'm just not a senior at Olympic. I'm one at East Mecklenburg High School.
Thank you. My name is Jalen Adams. I use she, her pronouns. I am not a high school student. I am studying political science at Columbia University, and I will be facilitating this conversation. I also work for Our Turn, which is a national nonprofit that, Sydney, you know, we're dedicated to elevating student voices, giving them the platform to raise their voices, express their wants for the education system, their wants for their future, and so on. We facilitate conversations like this one. And we are also in collaboration with the Levine Museum of the New South, who have been having conversations like this one for quite some time now in a series called Youth Voices. They usually talk about history curriculum, digital platforms, and so on. But today, we will be bringing it back and talking a little bit about mental health. I'm sure you all have experience with it, even the adults do, although they don't like bringing it up. So we can get started with our leading question, which is, what does mental health mean for you?
What does mental health mean to me? It's a broad question. But mental health to me, it means really prioritizing yourself. I know most of us are high school seniors, and with college applications coming up, and of course over the span of our high school careers, we might have felt a lot of pressure to achieve, and because especially if you're applying to T20s or something like that, there's a lot of pressure, and you feel competitive against your peers, and they're starting to just seem like you're a number rather than a person. And so then it kind of just it just stresses you out, and it just bringing it back. Mental health to me, it's just remembering who I am as a person, and I'm not a statistic. I'm not a number. I'm a person, and I have thoughts and feelings. I need to prioritize that more than achievements and putting my worth into my extracurriculars and outside validation.
Yeah, I'd say that to me, mental health is, just there are a lot of external forces and pressures that sort of are pushing and pulling, especially at such a time in our lives that's so filled with change. Most of us are seniors heading into college. So your mental health is just the way that those external forces have influenced your own internal balance.
Mental health to me can mean a lot of things, as far as when it comes to taking a break, or like decompressing after a long day. Mental health to me is relaxing. Mental health to me is also prioritizing things that I have to get done in a day, and also relaxing. I prioritize relaxing. I'm sorry, but that's being productive to me. Even knowing that I'm actively taking care of myself, that's mental health to me,
Sydney, you talked a little bit about feeling like a number, which I know is something that doesn't go away even if you go to college. But I would love to know just how has your school community contributed to your mental health? How has it taken away? How has it improved it? Anything?
Okay, so going back a little, my sophomore year of high school, it was around November. I got depressed. It was not a fun time. It was high functioning. You wouldn't necessarily notice if it was. My grades were still fine, but when I turned off the Zoom screen and I was all alone, I'd just be crying for literally no reason, and I had no idea why, and I just felt it was probably this is the worst I'd felt ever in my life, and I would never wish that feeling on anyone. And so the school environment at the time, I don't know, it was just rough. And I think for anyone transitioning to an online school environment so abruptly, and especially if you didn't like choose to do so, it would take away from anyone's mental health, and especially did mine. Especially not having the social interaction that we're used to, and you couldn't as easily like bounce off of people's ideas like you would in a traditional classroom setting. So for me, I think my school started to put a little bit more effort into it. And so like there was like school psychologists, and then like in student council, like we'd have like 2 students that would go out and like do interviews with the school psychologist, so like students would know more about like how like who they are and that they're accessible to students like who needed it at the time.
Um, what she said is really I really connect with, because during my time in quarantine and all that, I didn't really connect with anyone else. I was alone in my house. Well, I had my sister, but that's siblings. And we like I didn't talk to anyone at that time. It was a weird experience, just logging into Zoom, being there with my screen off, and then just doing nothing. But then as we transitioned back to in-person classes, I saw also connecting with my student council, my student congress. It was these little activities that we did in school that built like a community among us. It just helped me like start feeling better, start interacting with more people, having more fun. Just help my mental health do better than just being alone, because I was interacting with more people. I was having that again interaction with them, in which I could just go there, talk, or not even talk, just sit with someone else and feel that I was part of something.
I can really agree with y'all when y'all said how isolating it could be during quarantine. It really was isolating because just you, yourself, and your computer. And even though you would talk to people on Zoom, that's not the same as being, physical contact with someone. I feel like we as a society really don't realize how alone you can feel. And when you're alone and you realize how like little you are to society because you're by yourself, and you realize that everyone else is by themselves, and you realize how quickly you can just be by yourself and no one really notices. I feel like that mindset that how we are really just a number really goes into it. Like we really are just a number. Like if I just stop going to Zooms, yeah, of course your teacher will call you like, oh, what's happening? But at the end of the day, no one's gonna really like, they're gonna do the little things, but no one's really gonna be like, oh, let me see, because you really are just a number. But I feel like at my school, they try to like give you extra time, of course, and they try to do the little things to help. But I feel like at my school, it's still prevalent that feature of like you are kind of just a number. But I feel like they do try, but I feel like those attempts are futile.
But also, I don't know if I'm jumping on any of your questions. I feel like after quarantine, people started seeing mental health as something more important, especially in schools. Like in my school, we started prioritizing it a little bit more. That's why we stopped it because of like not being able to go to school. But we started planning more mental health weeks and like preparing for exams. Like last year, what we did was get a car and we just bashed it. So it was bash for a buck. So we could de-stress. We had some tea. We had some coloring stations. It was like the week before exams, we all had that opportunity to just de-stress and prepare for that.
And at our school, after we went back to in-person learning, you could definitely see the effect that it had on the student population, because immediately after we got back in the physical building, there was a really big increase in the number of fights that were happening. Almost everyone I knew was like being late or absent all the time. It was really, it was very different to the school environment before.
And I really agree with that because even me myself, I can say that when we went back, I was late. I was skipping class. I'm not even gonna lie, because you gain that mindset during online that doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter and then you don't just keep that mindset. And yeah, when we came back, there was a lot of fights, a lot of like even with clubs, people weren't participating in clubs. It just felt a very like distance, like a very individual school, not a whole school.
I agree. I think we're speaking of on a to some degree a deeper cultural shift that happened after COVID, that kind of transcended politics and went deep into the mindset of like what it means to be a student, what it means to be a good student, and what it means to be a mentally healthy student as well. Because I'll tell you, I did not show up. I had something close to like 100 absences by the time we were done, and I still graduated. I still did well. It's just there's just some degree where it almost felt like it didn't matter. The teachers didn't care as much. Students didn't care as much. Clubs participation was incredibly low. So as we talk about kind of the negatives and the backlashes that come with COVID, I kind of want to talk about solutions as well. So what do you think your schools could have done better?
So I think that a couple things that our school could have did better was push the mental health programs that we do provide and have at our school, and push it more towards the student body. Like I know for sure that we actually have psychiatrists on campus, but not too many students even know about it. And another thing is the psychiatrist that we do have on campus, she's not our color, if that makes sense. Like she's not the same color as most of the student body, because we do go to a POC, predominant POC school. So it's a lot of factors in that. So I don't think students actually feel safe when going to her, if that makes sense. But yeah.
Do you know how many students your school have? And like based on that, how many psychologists do they have? Because that's also a big problem that we see. There's one psychologist for, I don't know, 2,000 students.
I think before, because this past year, a bunch of our student body moved to a different new school. But I think before that, it was something like 3,000?
It was
it more?
close to 3,000.
Close to 3,000.
So Wami, you touched a little bit about how your school psychologist didn't look the way you did. And I think it gets at this deeper question of identity and race and how it kind of intersects with mental health, specifically in schools where there is a predominant majority. So I would love to touch a little bit more on to what extent does society, culture, identity influence your mental health?
So me growing up to be a black man in America, I actually was kind of raised to keep my emotions in at a young age. I was often told boys don't cry and stuff like that, which it causes a lot of issues growing up. So I have issues giving myself in relationships or friendships or anything like that. It takes a toll on how you grow up and how certain environment, but it takes a toll.
Okay. Yeah, going into that, being a black female, I went to a predominantly white middle school, and I've been in mostly predominantly white environments for a majority of my life until I got to high school. And so through elementary and middle school, this mindset kind of festered in me, I have to be the best at everything. Because I know I have to work twice as hard, 10 times as hard as the white girl next to me in order to get what I want. And so I developed imposter syndrome. And so when being surrounded by also high achieving black males and females, still I feel I have to outwork them. I can't just be a peer and someone to collaborate with. I just have to be better. And then that it's just stressful. You can never relax. And you can never, I don't know who I truly am without the achievements and other external validation. And so I think society, with all of its racial discrepancies and discrimination, it's just it's made a toxic environment to kind of grow in. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, but I really do agree with that. 'Cause I feel it really plays a part, because when I look around, I feel why am I not trying hard enough? Why can this person next to me do this with such ease and I can't? There's something wrong with me that I should just try harder and harder. Because if someone can do it, why can't I do it? But I feel that mindset is so harmful in thinking, because we're not all built with the same strengths and weaknesses that we think we are. And I feel when we look at society and the effect it has on my mental health, I feel if we really look at look at the top celebrities and look at how people look at their bodies and how certain bodies are placed over certain other ones. And I feel like that really takes a toll on a lot of people's mental health, men and females, men and women's mental health equally. Because I feel like, of course, women's mental health, the hourglass figure, but I feel like men's mental health also, that plays a big part. And I feel like we don't talk about that enough. Like, is either very much the six pack or I feel like the trends are very in and out. And that's the thing. The trends are like a big part because like you're like, oh my gosh, this body, I need it because if I don't have it, I don't feel pretty. And I feel like that's a terrible mindset that is being perpetuated by the side we are in right now.
Also being, a Black female, although our experience were different because I grew up going to like schools like WAMA, like where I was surrounded by people, like all my peers, like we were of the same race or there were people of the Latinx community. So I was surrounded by people who know, like it's very few white students at our school. And I feel as though a lot of people like, they feel like just because they are Black or being surrounded by other people who feel as though it's cool to, put on this image as though they're tough or that they need to, like do certain things to prove themselves to other people. They don't really touch on mental health as much and you're considered weak if do things as like cry or express your emotions. And I know there's a lack of emotional intelligence, within that space. So, I think it's very important to push the narrative that it's okay to go to therapy. I personally go to therapy. I see nothing wrong with it. Like, I feel as though, like, you don't have to be crazy to go to therapy, like, or crazy, I'm sorry, because that's, stigmatism, like, placed on people with mental health disorders. Like, so stuff like that, I feel like we really just need to push that it's okay to go. Like, you can even go to therapy for, like, career navigation, like, it's literally so many things, and I just feel like that's just so important to me.
Someone touched on kind of social media and like the expectations of being pretty, being thin, being smart, being the best, Jessica. Just the many standards and expectations that come with not only maybe being a man, being a woman, being queer, being Black, coming from a PWI, coming to a predominantly Black school. And I really kind of want to deep dive into, or at least as much as we can deep dive into kind of the expectations that you think are set by social media and how it kind of intersects with the different aspects of not only your identity, but of your mental health.
So I'm non-binary, and one of the things that you were talking about is the difference in how it affects men and women. And so I feel like I have this kind of not unique to me, but unique to non-binary people, because there's pressure to look both like attractive in the way that women are supposed to look attractive and in the way that men are supposed to look attractive, but also strike some balance where you don't look like either. And there's just very unrealistic standards for pretty much every gender, every sex, and because it's all determined by trends, the trend cycle changes. Like every 5 years, different bodies are what's considered hot, what's considered attractive. And so even if right now someone is considered gorgeous, unless they have the money to get different surgeries to physically change their body type will be out within the next 10 years.
Of what they said, I agree. Like Kim Kardashian, she literally just removed like
That's what I'm saying. But we can't go off topic.
I mean, she looks good,
No.
yeah, but like
Very much on brand.
yeah, very like I think she noticed that that being natural is coming back in, and now you feel like, oh, it's okay to be natural. But that's not to place all blame on her, because if you're a trendsetter, that's not your fault. Like, it's not like she's purposely perpetuating negative, like, body stick, like, she's not doing that on purpose, but, things are happening to where people are getting surgery to look like her. So, I don't know, but it's just funny how, like, all these people are trying to, like, look like her, and then they notice that she's trying to look like them. So, it's weird.
No, but I also feel like for celebrities and influencers, there's some sort of weight that you have to put. Like, you have to realize that young girls, young boys, just young the young generation is looking up to you, looking up to your body, your choices. If they see you do this, and you staying silent is laying what changing society be okay. Like you're like, oh, I'm okay with the change body type. I just change my body type. No, and then she has like slim like body slimming wear. I feel like she's a very toxic. Like, even though you say, oh, it's not her fault because that's just the trends that's happening in society. I feel like she does play a role in it, and she knows she does. And she's not taking accountability. She's not doing anything to help the cause. She's just going with it.
I think with people like the Kardashians, especially when their whole brand and the reason that they're famous is because they're gorgeous, and they have the money to continue to be gorgeous, and because what they're known for is their looks, there's a lot of pressure for them to continue that standard. So they would get like ruthlessly mocked if they started doing things that weren't considered like attractive, right? Especially like Kim. But they also definitely, like you said, like they don't take into account the effect that they have on other people. They definitely are seeing her out there be like changing her body type to whatever's the standard, and not really, there's a big disparity between the pressure that's on her to be perfect and then the effect that her being what society considers perfect, the effect that that's having on people who are like looking up to her for some reason.
Especially like the clean girl trend versus like
What do you mean by that?
give me a year ago it was like
I
makeup
know
on
what it
makeup
is,
on
but
makeup.
I know what it is. But I'm just saying, like, what do you mean by that?
You're not familiar?
But
It's like, okay, so the clean girl trend is essentially trying to turn like eating healthy and doing yoga and being all natural and like all that kind of stuff into like an aesthetic. It like romanticizes being healthy but in an unhealthy way.
And I feel like the aesthetic can be very anti-black sometimes. They're like, oh, no long nails, like short, clean nails, and like hair not, and crazy colors. It's very anti-black. It's just, I feel like they see that they took what they could from like black culture, like, oh, like let me take what I can, let me do these surgeries, BBLs, and things like that. Let me take what I can, and then now, oh, we deem it unpopular. We're gonna change it up, and now we're gonna deem y'all as, I don't want to use the wrong word, and this is like not trendy. Yeah, like black culture's not trending anymore. Now they're like doing this little clean girl, like, oh my gosh, let me get my little slick back bun, my Pilates.
Which was also,
Yeah,
slick hair was also popular. It was also popularized by black women in the 90s. So that's another thing that kind of bothers me, because it's like you're appropriating this culture and trying to like make it your own, like, and just throwing ours in the trash after you're done using it, to your own advantage. So that's a little weird to me. But also, something you said that I thought was very important, the whole eating healthy thing, things like that. People can be of different weights and still be healthy. Someone of a slimmer body type, who may weigh 100 pounds or 90 pounds, they can be very unhealthy. And not even in the matter of, anorexia or things of that nature, they could just eat junk and still not be as healthy as someone who may be, like who may weigh more than them, who eats healthy every day. Like,
And what you were saying about the trends, I feel like almost every popular trend that goes around, especially on the internet, but for forever, for like as long as America has existed, most of the super popular trends that have gone around are either like at least certain elements of it are straight up just appropriated from whatever was popular in the black scene of the time. Mm-hmm. So whatever it's like the trend cycle goes from the black culture in America, and then it gets taken by the white. It turns into white culture without any of the credit going to any of the people who created it.
we've kind of been, I think, talking about the role models of society, the trendsetters of society, but to what degree or in what ways can role models and the trendsetters not only better protect the mental health of like the young people who look up to them, but the different communities that they could potentially be butchering the mental health of by taking certain parts of them and deeming it attractive, and then taking other parts of them and deeming it unattractive. To what degree can they do better?
Well, I know back in like 2020, there was like a big thing like influencers need to be using their platforms for good, and then they get like if they don't, then they were gonna get called out for it, and so there was obviously some extremes that weren't as beneficial to like social media and just in general, but there were like I do feel like there was some social responsibility that was put on influencers to kind of better their platforms, and like if you're gonna have this mass following, then you need to do something with it. And I think that was good. And that was a good start to kind of reforming social media in a way rather than just like trends and I don't know, just superficial things. So yeah.
Referring to that, how do you mark the difference between them doing this because they feel responsible and them doing it just as a PR mark, as a PR move?
You're so right, because people who celebrities, influencers, all that stuff, they're still just people, and they fold to peer pressure as easily as anyone else. And so much of the stuff that they do is like, it's difficult to tell, are they doing this because they feel pressure from outside sources to do this, or they're going to get canceled, or because it's actually something that they believe in and they want to help. And what you were saying about how much of a duty they have to other people, to their audience, to maintain their mental health, and to what you were saying about them deciding that certain parts of themselves were unattractive and then changing it, and the effect that has on their audience. People like Kim Kardashian, she has gotten plastic surgery and stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. But before she did, she had a lot of more like ethnic features. And then because she got popular, it was like an overwhelming amount of pressure for her to be more beautiful. So she started to fold to the white standard of beauty. And she was gorgeous either way, but her features just got changed into what was popular, which is what was white.
I feel as though, like, you know, when it comes to like the people who we're looking up to or who we just see on social media every day, you really just cannot expect certain things from certain people. You know, if somebody like I feel like perception does matter to a certain extent. Like, okay, if you're somebody who, you know, like who you advocate for like young kids, or you advocate for mental health, if you know, were to go online and just like, you know, say something very outrageous, like, yes, that matters. Like, because why would you say that? And that would ruin your brand, you know? Like, but certain celebrities, you know, like for example, Cardi B, like, you know, when we just like read over her tweets, it's just like, wow, this is kind of crazy. Like, like certain things that people say. And, you know, like when so many people do watch you, so absolutely you have a responsibility to watch what you say. But like you said, like, you can't just expect somebody to genuinely care if they really do not. Like, I'm not expecting anything from anyone. Like, but that's because I know better. But for children who don't know better to not act a certain type of way, you know, they may like pick up on certain behaviors, which I think can be like negative.
It kind of makes me want to speak on intrinsic motivation versus external motivation, and how even if you start out doing things because it's what you actually want to do and it's your own self trying to improve the world, eventually the praise you get for doing those things and the pressure that people have for you to keep doing them, it will turn into external motivation. So even if you started out wanting to do it because it's what you thought was right, you're going to wind up doing it because it's what is expected.